What's up? I'm here right now speaking with Phil Saros, the co-founder of Dirt Monkey University. And this is going to be awesome on this webinar, on this podcast today, because we're going to be talking specifically about when a whole bunch of work is coming at you at the spring rush, how to deal with it, and what to focus on, especially in times of maybe if you're feeling anxious and you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to keep the pieces together and keep the ball moving forward. Phil is an expert at this because he's been doing this for many, many years. His company's hit well over the $1 million mark, and he's been really able to figure a lot of things out. So what's going on, Phil?
Not too much, Keith. I mean, actually, a whole lot's going on because we are, too, in the middle of the busy spring season. And here comes the flood again. It gets a little easier now because I've experienced it before. But I'll tell you, it had to take me at least a minimum of 5 years before I figured out all heck was going to break loose in mid-March to mid-April as this spring rush came along. And it seems like no matter how many times I came up against it, I was always unprepared for it. And so as my business matured and as I matured, I realized, you know what, I better be prepared for it because I could really enjoy all of the opportunities that come my way and take advantage of it instead of feeling burnt out. Because you come out of a season that's slow like winter and you're stressed because you had no work. Now you go into a season that's busy like spring and you're stressed because you got too much work. It's like, what do I do first? And for me, I think where I grew was when I developed more a set of principles to live by versus strategies and ways to try to deal with it. Because there's not an easy way to deal with all the stuff that's flying at you. But if you have certain principles that guide how you live your life, it will help direct you and channel your energy to where it is most effective and most valuable.
So that's a good place to start right there. So give us some theoretical and then some tactical stuff and then to-do actions. What I mean is by that is we were talking about this a little bit earlier, and you were saying I only answer my phone and the return calls in this block time, and then the rest of the time you're hustling and getting stuff done or focusing. So you're not like picking up and putting down tasks So can you liaison into that? So imagine the phone's ringing off the hook. You got a million things going on. You got a project. You're ordering materials, this and that. You know what I'm saying. Go.
Yep. If the phone's ringing off the hook, which it does, and it will, even right now as we talk, phone is on silent, turned upside down. So no matter what somebody else thinks is an emergency, to me it's not, and I can put all my focus here where I'm at right in this moment. As it rings during the day, people will go to voicemail. I'll answer a call from my wife. I'll answer a call that if I'm expecting or if I have scheduled a certain phone call, I'll answer it. Otherwise, I am going to pick and choose what I determine is most valuable in the day. If I fail to do that, my customers will make me feel like their emergency needs to be my emergency. My employees will make me feel like their emergency needs to be my emergency. I can let the world dictate to me what fires I need to put out, or I can stay in control of how my day is spent. And believe me, 99% of what other people think is a fire is not a fire. In fact, one of the things that I realized by accident was years ago when I didn't have time to call my foreman back. If I didn't call him back for about 20 minutes, he stopped calling me because he found the solution himself. And that was one of the freeing things that I realized is sometimes they don't always need an answer spoon-fed to them. They're capable people. And if you help remind your leaders on your crew that they're capable people, even the new guys, what I wanted to do is when new people would come in is tell them, like, here's your job response. Here are the tasks and duties you're to do. But here are the things that you're allowed to create on your own. Here are decisions you're allowed to make. For example, if I tell you to put all these plants in at 3 feet on center, and you lay them out and you feel that 3 foot 3 inches on center is better, it looks better, it feels better, I'm going to give you that freedom to make that decision. The only criteria you have is make sure they're evenly spaced. So little things like that, little decisions empowers people, and it takes that off of your plate. So whenever possible, empower the people on your team to make the most amount of decisions they can that cannot screw up your job. Empower. Yeah. Give
Okay.
them freedom.
Thinking about that, I have this one guy who works for me. He'll get into something in detail, and it could just be trimming some stuff and pruning it, and then he'll just go at it, and I'll be like, what? Oh, yeah, keep doing that. Keep doing that. And it's kind of funny because I'm a control freak because I'm obsessed with perfection, and that's one thing that holds me back. How do you get over that when you're kind of building and growing?
It's in that respect, it's teaching them what my principles are. Number one, we always serve our customer in the sense that the quality of our jobs is determined by, is our customer happy? I mean, we know we have a set of principles and standards that we build to, but ultimately what we think is beautiful, and if they think it's ugly, we failed. Even though we know technically on paper we've done our job well, we need to make them happy. So if I've designed something a certain way and you can see, and I want you to interact with our customers when I'm not there, I want them to interact with them. If you see them walking around, stop what you're doing. If you're the foreman, walk over to the customer and ask, how do you like everything? So that simple question, how does everything look to you? How do you like everything? And then listen, they're going to say, well, it looks pretty good. Well, what do you mean by pretty good? We really want this job to look great. Is there something you see? Well, yeah, I don't like that gardenia plant over there. I'm thinking, is there somewhere else we can put it? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's put it over here. This is not something that requires a phone call to me anymore, where it used to. They would pick up the phone, call me, and I would say, why don't you just walk with the customer and ask, where would they like it? It's a gardenia. Pick a spot in the sun, and if they're happy with its location, put it there. Just because I chose it to go in one location doesn't mean it has to be stuck there. So I've trained them to know, like, yes, you listen to me, but honestly, I've let go of that control. Like, I'm not the end-all resource as to what, I only design what I think looks great according to their vision.
So this is one thing or one mindset or principle that you can put in place then to freeze you up to even consider all the phone calls coming in, hitting you, and all the voicemails you got to return. So say if you kind of get that down, because I know I'm breezing through this, then move to the phone call thing. I really like that.
Yeah, so I get a lot of phone calls, as I'm sure most of the landscapers watching this do in the springtime. I choose between 2 and 3 p.m. every day to stop what I'm doing and return phone calls. I don't schedule appointments during that time. I don't call people back at the end of the day, because at the end of the day is when I'm starting my own family time. I want to be home. I want to be cooking dinner. I want to be with my kids. So I stop at 2 p.m. and I start returning phone calls, and I prioritize those phone calls. And here's one of the things that I suggest you do is call people back that are your current customers that have a concern, a complaint, a problem first before you call new prospects. It stinks because everyone's excited to get to the new sale, the guy that has a big job that they want to talk to you about. But your service will always help your company outperform the industry average if you serve clients great. So my first calls at 2:00 will start with somebody that might have a concern about the project we finished up the week before and might want to talk about it. If you answer those fast, that's going to keep your 5-star reviews coming in. That's what's going to keep your leads coming in. At worst case, you drop the ball on a brand new person you've never done a job for before you drop the ball on an existing customer. It's not as much fun to call the existing customer, but it's what's going to build your business from the core if you take the time to do that first. So 2 to 3 p.m., return phone calls. At 3, stop returning phone calls. If you don't get to everybody, put them in for the next day. There's going to be things that fall through the hoops. Your job as a business owner is not to capture every single lead that comes through the door. If you have that as your goal, you're going to fail and it's going to feel really bad. Set the expectation to be realistic. Capture the business that is core to you, that's within a few miles of your shop, that has the most profitable services that you like to perform, that's with easy, non-picky customers, that has the highest margins. learn how to cherry pick the very best projects and give
Dude,
yourself.
that's
Yeah.
huge right now. I have 21 missed calls and voicemails. Like, my shit's blowing up right now. And I'm going through the voicemails and I'm listening. Because you can hear by the tone of voice that's your customer or not.
Yeah.
And some of them are right on that line, because some of them are absolutely no. Some of them, yes. And okay, is there a specific day that you do quotes? How do you pepper quotes in?
Okay, I have two. I got before kids and after kids. In the first 5 years of my business before I had kids, Saturday was the golden day. You could go out, line up 9, 10 quotes, start at
Wait,
7, 8
that's what
a.m.
I do right now. And it's hard to do. It was, but now I say, I can meet you Saturday. Well, I say, I can meet you Saturday. So I line them up on Saturday. I knock them all down all on Saturday. It's like the best thing ever. Worst thing is when we end up working on Saturday. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, and to your point, when the crew's working, you're working, and it's sometimes real hard to do that. But Saturday is a great day if you don't have kids. Look, if you have a family, Saturdays become insanely tough, and it's a shock when you go from no kids to having your first child, and you realize like, whoa, I got to give my wife a break on Saturday. I got to, hang with the kid, and you're thinking like, what do I do with this? It took me a couple years to make that transition and realize like, you know what? I went into cable guy mindset. I became the cable guy. I will be there between 8 and 10 a.m. I'm giving you a window, and it's going to be in the middle of the day. And if you can't make it, I'll work with a morning window, a late afternoon window, or a lunch window. But for the most part, I do almost zero Saturday appointments, almost zero evening appointments. Everything I do during the day, and I make them conform. I've got all these times available between Monday and Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. But after that, I can't be available. It is not, once I made that.
Mailman cover ready? No?
No. No, I'm on a webinar right now, but he did not come. Actually, I don't know. Actually, I can't tell you that for sure because I wasn't paying attention, but I didn't see him.
That's life. This is real life. So that's a perfect example. Real life. You know what? You stop when something more important comes in. When your wife or your spouse talks to you, you got to stop and talk. So no big deal. That's how it goes. But you know what? I just realized that I was the one setting boundaries. And if my boundaries were this big, people would conform to that. And if I chose to be available late evening and early Saturday, of course, that's more convenient for them. But when you start narrowing the window of when you're available, but then they're looking online and realizing this is a great company with a ton of 5-star reviews that does the work that we want to do. They did my neighbor's house and they did a great job. I'm going to make a way to get off work early to come meet this guy when he can meet. And you start setting that, it doesn't take long before people really quickly conform to that. And I have zero problems getting people to meet with me that I want to meet with during the week, during the day.
That's awesome.
I do. You mentioned schedule. I will throw this in. I do as often as possible, zero quotes on Mondays. I like my Mondays, if at all possible, to be a complete office day. It's not always possible, but I try
That's
to.
Me too. Yeah, Monday is that, I call it business administration day. That's the day I do pay the bills, do all this shit, and deal with the insurance, all that stuff funnels into Monday, because I've tried to do it on other times and other days and pepper it in. It wasn't working. So now I'm slotting and funneling things into specific days that are like-minded, like playing Tetris.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Mondays are great. So if you're out there thinking like, well, how do I start to build the structure of your week and of your days during the middle of a crazy season, I look at it and say, okay, Saturday and Sunday are out because I have a family and that's what I've chosen to make more important than my business. So the weekends are precious time. I'm not going to do anything, period. That leaves me Monday through Friday. I need one of those days in that week, whether it's any day in that week. For me, it's Monday, to say I have to be in the office. If I'm not paying my bills, looking at my accounts, balancing my books, whatever it is, I've got to be in the office typing proposals. And that leaves me 4 days a week to go out and sell and run jobs. And the more I can train and delegate responsibilities. Look, if you want to train your crew to be so you can be off of the site, it starts with baby steps. You don't just go from being like, okay, I'm here every day, and then tomorrow I'm going to never be here again. You're responsible. Give them baby steps. Give them a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more responsibility. And as time goes on, they're going to take that ball and run with it.
I'm listening to you, calculating everything you're saying. Okay, so the next thing I want to ask you is it's like power versus force. At what point are you forcing and controlling this thing? And then at what point does it become where it hits automaticity and now it's happening?
There's definitely a time in there, a transition, especially if you're the guy that's working on the jobs while you're working right alongside your crew. And chances are this is the time of year when you feel like, I wish I didn't have to do that. You're going to have to commit to one season of complete focus on that goal. If you were to say, just like you're supposed to be always have your 3 top goals and supposed to be looking at every day, I would say to the person that is working on their crew and trying to sell and trying to do their books, trying to do it all, one of your top goals should be get off of your crew. Make your crew run the jobs without you. And you might think to yourself today, that's impossible. I've tried everything. I've done everything under the sun. It's never going to work. I too tried everything. And I went through people and it failed and failed and failed until it didn't fail. At one point it succeeded because I made enough mistakes in doing it that I learned that if I incrementally increase the responsibility and I hyper-focus my attention on this one goal, and I would look at it and say, okay, I have a job coming up in a month that's a side job. How do I not be on that one job? How can I set my guys up and prepare them? So you take the next 30 days and you prepare your guys for that 1-2-day job that you don't want to be on. Practice small incremental little steps and say, okay, I'm not going to be there next week. Let's go through the steps again. You prepare the soil, you amend it with this, all the materials will be there. Here's how we lay the sod. We water it as it's being laid out, roll it when it's complete, walk through with the homeowner, pick up the final check, bring the final check to the office and hand it to me. And done. And you don't touch that job. Practice in little jobs and make them successful, and then reward them and say, great job, let's put you on the next project. And that's how you can train people to take over the tasks that you're doing. It can be done with any type of project, from sod to hardscapes to lawn maintenance.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm thinking about it because that's where I'm at. I started to expand a little bit in my business, and then I went right back down because it got way too stressful. There's too many things going wrong, and they were costing me money, too many variables. And I started to notice that I had a leadership issue. Anybody here watching that, if you can relate to that, or like a guy that works for you, they'll lose their driver's license. You're like, oh shit. And then
Exactly.
the constant changing of everything was and I'm making this a coaching session about me. The reason I bring this up is because people that are watching can relate to it. It's very important to me to talk about this stuff. Is when too many variables are happening in your business and changes and too many surprises all the time, now it started leaking over into my family life and hurting my family life, because now I'm picking up these pieces. Like, say something has to be done today. All these surprises happen. Now you're there till 10 o'clock at night making it happen because you know the next day you have this and this and this and this and this that has to be done, and all these promises, which affects something like a big family event on the weekend, right? So there was a point where I started saying, just letting it all go. I was, losing a lot of money, pissing off clients, but I was there with my family, and my business started crumbling. So I went back to picking up my business, and then so I had to go back down. Not had to. I felt like I had to go back down and stay small and controllable and manageable to make sure that I can make it all work. So what do you have to say about that?
You know what? You spelled out exactly what all of us have gone through. And still to this day, those things, those moments don't go away. I mean, I still have those moments myself where, even though I'm not actually working on a lot of the jobs, where something will come up that is a fire. and it's a real fire that has to be addressed, and I'm right there at my kid's birthday, and it's like, what do you do? How do you address it? And part of that is the acceptance and saying, you know what? I own a business. This is the life I chose. There's a whole lot of rewards. If I can keep all of these fires and these moments down to a bare minimum, I can still deal with that, because there will be moments that you have to be pulled away. There's a time once in a while when I take a phone call on a Friday night when we're at a restaurant, because this is the call I just can't miss. And I excuse myself and say, I'm sorry, I got to talk to this guy. And we address things like that. I will say most of the problems that I've had have always followed a few simple rules. One, they're almost always bigger in my mind than they are in everybody else's. They're almost always, because they represent the most amount of fear to me, fear of losing money. If I don't, we're wrapping up a job on a Friday night and my foreman calls and says the guy doesn't want to give us the final check because he's concerned about XYZ on the job. And then you're all of a sudden scrambling like, well, if I have to go back there tomorrow, it's going to cost me money. How do I resolve it tonight when I'm at dinner and I got to leave dinner? And you go into this big panic cycle that, because you're so immediately transitioned to fear. And when fear drives you, you are headed for a train wreck of emotions.
Yeah. So when you said fear, when it drives you, it's like a motor that starts running, like your sympathetic nervous system. You go into this fight or flight mode. And I'm in a little bit of it right now as I speak, because springtime, we're swamped. There's a million things going on, saying, how am I going to fit all these Tetris pieces in? But it's, when you're in a calm state of mind, you can just execute versus perpetuating it in your head. So how have you been able to work through that and get to a place of, does it stop happening, or do you start to talk yourself down, or what do you do?
I think one thing is, and I'm going to try to explain what happens in my brain, because sometimes it's not always easy to explain. But one thing that takes place is I realize, like, okay, let's say spring is 3 months. I'm here today. No matter what I do, if I act like I'm completely afraid and crippled with the emotion of fear, 3 months will pass. If I act brave and bold and strong, 3 months will pass. No matter what, 3 months are going to pass. What I have to show for it at the end of the 3 months will be a result of every choice that I make in those 3 months. But no matter what, I will be flooded with phone calls, flooded with things that seem like problems. I will have demands from my family that need to be met. I will have times when I can choose to be present at my kid's baseball game, or I could be thinking about work. But no matter what, that time will pass. And what I have to show for it at the end is, like, sometimes I will look 3 months into the future and look back and say, how do I want to feel in 3 months? Well, I want to feel like I sold every possible dollar I could, made a ton of profit, was totally present with my family, and had peace during that time. I want those 3 months I want to feel the emotions that I want to feel. What emotions do I want to feel? I want to feel joy, happiness, peace, vitality, energy. I don't want to feel depleted, depressed, fearful, painful, and resentful. And if I want to feel that, I could, no matter what, the 3 months will pass. I can feel the bad, negative emotions, or I can feel the positive emotions, and all of it will be a result of my choice. If I chase down every single opportunity thinking I have to please everybody, chances are I'll feel resentful, fearful, painful, lack of joy. If I dictate exactly where I'm going to put my time, meaning create a plan for my week, minute by minute, hour by hour, what I'm going to do from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. And I put those demands. Doesn't mean certain things won't pluck me away, but a whole lot less will pull me away if I have a plan in place for how I choose to spend my time. It is my choices that will dictate what happens in 3 months. I can make.
Wait, this is awesome. So it's so simple, but it's kind of like behind whether we like to accept it or not, we're choosing everything that's happening. We're manifesting it all, including the way we perceive it and our emotions and everything. Because sometimes we feel like we're being taken on a ride that we don't want to fucking go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we
But
chose to go on it. Yeah. It is, you know, you look at, I look at some of the most successful people that I admire, and there's plenty of people that are successful, but they've burnt bridges with their families or they're into other problems. But there's some people out there, some gurus, some guys out on the internet that I follow that I really admire because it seems, unless they're really pulling the wool over my eyes, that they've reached a level of living that not only brings all the money that they want, but more importantly than the money is all of the feelings and emotions that they want. I mean, if you live your life feeling all of the feelings that you want to feel 90% of the time or more, I would say you have a successful life because I can promise you, I know this is going to seem like a foreign language to some people. It truly is not money that brings happiness. And some people are going to look at this and be like, yeah, right, man, you're running $1 million company and you did whatever. But no, it's not money that brings you happiness. It's the feelings that you think about money. I mean, you could say, I want money, and I give you $1, and you say, okay, I gave you money, but you're still not happy. It's what the money does to you. It might represent peace, security, certainty. I can pay all my bills, which means I can sleep at night, which means I can be more present and available for my family. If you're struggling through this peak season, some people struggle through the winter and say, like, I've got no work, I'm struggling. And then they get all this work and say, well, I got a bunch of work now, but none of it's profitable and my guys suck and they're quitting and leaving and I have turnover, so that doesn't bring me happiness. Then you're failing at something. And I mean that in the most positive sense because it's a chance for you to say, how can I experience the joy of the spring season and smile all the way through it? Well, that means you've got to train yourself to know exactly how to go after the most profit-rich jobs. And then you've got to learn a new word that will free you. And that word is no. You've got to be able to tell people no. No, I don't want your project because you're not willing to pay me the dollar that I want to get paid for that project. Go let your competitors spin their wheels on these crappy jobs while you go cherry pick the sweetest jobs. And you know what? Even if you don't increase your total revenue a single percentage point, maybe you drop your revenue from last year. If you take your bottom line and double it, then who cares what your top line is? Who cares if you went from 200,000 to 300,000? Stay at 200,000. Just do a 25 or 30% net margin instead of a 15% net margin. Have all the rewards and none of the headaches. So try to learn how to trade off revenue, trade off your crappy jobs for really profit-rich jobs. Trade out your crappy employees for really great employees. And those people can be found. You can offer those opportunities because now you're willing to invest more time into training and teaching, delegating.
So with everything that we're talking about, it's all kind of coming full circle because it's one like organic, it's like an ecosystem. And I see what you're talking about because one thing feeds the other. And yeah.
If this was a Disney movie, we'd all be singing Circle of Life right now.
Yeah.
but it is. It is an ecosystem, and the way you described it is perfect. With at the core, at the center of this ecosystem is your own spirituality. And I'm not telling you what to believe, but I'm saying whatever it is, it needs to be something bigger than yourself. For me, it's God. For you, whatever that may be. But you've got to have a core belief. Look, if you squeeze an orange, you will get what is inside, which is orange juice. If you squeeze a human being, if you put pressure on a human, you will get what's inside, which means if you're people can be real nice outside. Hey, look, I'm selling your job. Give me a check, blah, blah, blah. But you start putting pressure on that person, you will find out real quickly if they are bitter, angry, resentful, or if they're loving, kind, and gentle. Change that core, develop that core of who you are. So no matter what pressure comes to you from the outside, the best parts of you get to shine under the worst stresses and worst pressures. You will raise who you are as a person. Don't ask for the world to become easier. Ask for yourself to become better and more prepared.
Yes.
So if you work on you, those problems will go away. What won't go away is crappy customers, needy clients, picky customers, needy employees. I mean, all of these problems are always exist. You become better, you will start to attract better customers. I don't mean to get all frou-frou, but there is a lot of science in the law of attraction. You will attract exactly what you feel you deserve. If you have that presence about you where you deserve great employees, great customers, you'll start to bring that into your world. So it is definitely an ecosystem. I hope I haven't overcomplicated the explanation of it.
No, that's totally awesome. Okay, so let's wrap that up here. You guys listening, I hope you got a lot from that. I know I did. So this podcast is on SoundCloud, Libsyn, Spreaker, should be on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and also here if you're watching it on YouTube, what's up? Click the thumbs up, let us know in the comments, and add value to this. What are your thoughts about this? Because we are a community. And then once again, Phil, also click a link below, because you're putting out an artificial turf course.
Yes. So Dirt Monkey University is building a step-by-step artificial turf course. We're always looking for new ways to help guys that want to get into installation or want to expand their installation business to have access to information to serve markets that are underserved. Artificial turf is a huge growing niche market. There are huge monster profits to be made in doing that. Our company does it. We do it very well. We're teaching other contractors how to get into artificial turf, how to make money doing it, and how to do it correctly.
Perfect. So if you are on the podcast, there will be a link below, or go over to YouTube and just look up an interview with Phil Saros from Dirt Monkey University. And then the link below this video here, you can go to it and check out your artificial turf course, which is really awesome. All right, cool. Thanks so much, Phil.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, Keith.
Tear it up, bro. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And that will conclude this podcast. Later.
Awesome. Later.